And welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. When last we left this third attempt to rescue our stranded astronaut from Duna, we had successfully landed the fuel factory kethane mining ship on Ike. And in that time, it has mined several loads of kethane and done the conversion and refueled itself completely. And we are now ready to get this thing off the ground. We've got two ships in orbit. There is the rover itself that we'll have to redock with and take that to Duna. And then there is the fuel ship that we brought out here to make sure this thing had enough fuel to land on Ike. And at some point that thing's going to need to be refueled, because it's just kind of handy to have a fuel depot sitting up here in orbit. But I think for the time being, the main thing is to get this thing to Ike so that it can start mapping kethane deposits there. Kethane, kethane, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, here we are. The ship is leaning a good 15 degrees or so to the west by a little bit southwest, and over there 19.3 kilometers away is the first attempt to land one of these on Ike that died due to a lack of fuel. So let's get our flight stats up, and the smart SAS. And let's just see about getting this thing up and get over to Duna. We've got all the kethane we need. We have all the fuel needed. We'll be able to do a good Duna landing here and refuel the rover, because it used some of its RCS in backing away earlier. Alright. SAS on, and let's just get this thing off the ground. Pitch this thing over to the 90. Gear up. Let's just stay vertical for a little bit. Get up off the ground here. Clear the hills over to the east. A little bit of altitude. Pitching over. And head on into orbit. Make sure I'm on free camera mode. So this thing can lift off with a full load of fuel and a full load of kethane. That's very good to know. Although I pretty much kind of knew that. It's nice to see that it actually functions that way in practice. A slow, casual kind of a liftoff, but that's all right. Not much in the way of an orbital arc or apoapsis yet. I should check, however. Our rover is at a 96 kilometer altitude. Alright, that's our target. Got the apoapsis up here to 94 kilometers, and I cut the engines, figured that's a good altitude to circularize at. It's lower than the target, so we will catch up with it. Alright, let's go ahead and get a circularization maneuver here. 73. Well, obviously, we're not in plane with the target. Alright, let's see, 7.3, so we need some anti-normal to compensate for that. See if we can get a circularization and a plane change all in one burn. .1, 2.6. I gotta go back. Okay, it looks like 2.1 is about as close as we're going to get during ascent, but that's okay. That's a good start. I'll go ahead and get lined up with our maneuver node. And let's have a look here. All right, that'll get the orbital planes close to aligned. We'll have periapsis 94 and apoapsis 109. No, we want to back that down just a little bit. If I can remember to hit keep open while I'm actually working with this thing. Apoapsis 96, 93 by 94. That will be good. And how is our plane alignment? 2.1. We could fine tune that once we get up there. Alright, that will work. Go ahead and set an alarm for a burn. And time warp up to it. Duna rises over the horizon, kind of end on like that, kind of like it's laying on its side. Okay, we're lined up, Smart ASS off, SAS on, and we'll burn this at T-minus 23 seconds. Go. Okay, the orbit is widening and flattening out at the same time. Excellent. Relative inclination is coming. Oh, what happened to my target? There. Relative inclination definitely coming down. Almost there. Okay, very good. All right, we've got a nice low relative inclination, 2.1. We can get over here and fix that. And this should be just a little bit of anti-normal thrust. A little bit of burning south, as it were. 0.9. 0.3. 0.1. 0.1 the other direction, so we'll just back it up one, and we'll take that. That'll be good. Alright. Get lined up with that. Set an alarm for it. Very small burn here to fix this. 94 by 96 orbit. Perfect. Absolutely what we need. And now let us turn that off, turn this on, and time warp again. And believe it or not, we're actually going to get this thing to Duna. Do a bit more kethane mapping there, find a deposit close to our astronaut, and land on it. Meanwhile, the rover will land as close to the astronaut as possible and drive to him. Alright, burning at T-minus 3 seconds. Or right now, because I managed to overshoot. Watching the relative inclination instead of the maneuver. Bring that down as low as we can. All right, 0.02 degrees relative inclination looks good to me. Close that out. Alright, now focus on Ike. And right now it's just a matter of the waiting game. The orbit around until, okay, so here's us, here's our target. We need to orbit around until the target catches up, until we catch up with the target, excuse me, yes. And that's going to take a little while, so I will cut back in when we're close enough to start rendezvous. Alright, we're getting close here. 13.3 kilometers out. Closest approach is listed here as being about 9.4 kilometers. So I'm going to switch to the rover. Okay, I have to do it the hard way. Switch to that rover. I'm going to get it oriented in an orbit normal position so that it'll be easier to dock with. I'll know which direction it's facing. Alright. Basically, we're just going to point this thing north. So that way we'll know that when it comes time to dock with it, all we have to do is point our ship south. And now switch back to this. Reset our target, which seems to have been lost. There we go. Go ahead and let's orient relative negative so that we can kill our relative velocity and begin orbital approach. I don't guess we need that in the way anymore. Distance gets down to about 9.5, we'll kill that velocity. But a physics time warp to get closer. Actually, a little bit of regular time warp will be faster yet. Okay. Ship gets oriented and settled. Go ahead and start braking. Basically come to a relative stop. Alright, there we go. Orient target plus. Close in. That off. Like this, and then bring that yellow marker centered on the pink one. Go back to relative velocity negative. Ready to do some braking. If I check here, closest approach is, well, that can't be quite right. You know what? I don't need to pay any attention to that. This is all I really need here. This and the target relative velocity. Alright, let's get in closer. Oh, wait a minute, we're moving away. Alright. That should take care of that. As a matter of fact, if I hover the mouse over here, and with the ship oriented towards the target, just burn this until the separation comes down to what we want. Which is going to be less than a kilometer. All right, getting close. It's starting to go up, so we cut the thrust, orient for braking, and that'll put us within 1.8 kilometers, and we can get the rest of this done then. Alright, this is going to be a certain amount of rinse and repeat here, so I will cut back in when we are on close approach to docking. Alright, we're getting very close here. A little bit of difficulty getting lined up, but we're close. And now we've passed the thing again. Time to back up some, because these lines are red. That means we're on the wrong side of the docking port. Only 21 meters out though, so that's better. In fact, at this point, I should be able to use Smart ASS, Target Plus, orient the ship facing the target, and then switch to the target and orient facing this one. And then it should be a simple matter of close in and dock. Alright, turn that off, SAS on to hold it, swap ships. For this one, set the docking port on that one as a target. Okay, much closer, much better. Hold that. Swap back. Alright, now should be able to just, in docking mode, thrust this way a little bit and that way a little bit, bring these green lines to the center and then close in. "12 meters out, 11.9 to the target docking port. I wish I could get a better camera angle that lights things up better. Well, maybe this will do. Okay. Alright. Looking good. A bit of rotation. To get this orange marker centered. Alright, 10 meters out. Thrust forward a little bit. And it should be just about given. And we should then be able to redock with the rover and get that thing on its way to Duna. I don't know why I didn't turn the lights on before. Looks like we're right on target. Nice, easy, slow docking. We don't want to bang anything around, bump anything. Let's close the solar panels just in case. We don't want to be breaking those off. Looks like we're right on target. Certainly close enough for the docking magnets to take hold. 3 meters away. And we have docking. Lights off. RCS off. Docking mode off. Alright. Now that we have rejoined with the lander, the rover, we can see about getting this thing to Duna. And I'm thinking right about here is a good place to start for a maneuver to do that. And it's not going to take much. Adjust our maneuver time, bringing the periapsis down at Duna. Down to 230. 174. 95. 95 looks good. Okay. Now, can we incline that a little bit now so that we don't have to do it later? Let's see. Doesn't have to be a whole huge lot. That looks like it'll be enough inclination. Duna periapsis 142 will bring that back a little bit. Okay, this looks good right there. Let's just go ahead and lock it in. Schedule the burn. Get lined up with it. Get ready to take this thing to Duna. And this is going to be a successful mission. I am determined for that to be true. Alright. Lined up. Time warp it in and let's burn it. Okay. Burn at T-minus 45 seconds. And we're burning. Relatively small amount of delta V, only 135, 150, something like that. 135 it was. Whatever. Alright. This will put us on course to get to Duna, into a reasonable inclined orbit from which Duna can be mapped for kethane deposits, and we will land this sucker on the deposit closest to our astronaut. Meanwhile, the rover will land as close to him as possible so that he can drive over to the lander. How's this shaping up? Looking good. All right. Starting to shape up. It'll do most of the change in the last 10% of the burn, as usual, noticed. All right. Getting close to reaching escape. Alright. Now the Duna orbit is starting to shape up. Get the size and shape we're looking for. Just about there, and cut it. Okay, we have a Duna periapsis 131 kilometers. It looks reasonably inclined, enough to do what we want, but without making it too awful. Let's get out of Ike influence and into Duna. Alright, our Duna orbit, let's get the flight stats up. Duna inclination 7 degrees. Which for our purposes should be fine, because we're just wanting to look in the equatorial regions of Duna. So, because our pilot is in the equatorial area, the guy we're out to rescue. So let's put a circularization burn down here. And let's see, what does that get us? 121 by 137. Alright, that looks good. Get lined up for it, set an alarm, and warp down to it. Wait a minute, let me check that alarm. 2 minute 45 second burn. So I'll need to burn at about a minute. Well, let's get down, set the alarm for a minute 30. Probably need to burn about a minute 15. No. Pardon me while I actually do something sensible and do the math. So a minute 22 is when we'll do the burn. So we need about a minute 30 for the warning. Alright. Time warping down. And here we are, arriving in Duna orbit. And the beeping says that kethane mapping has begun. Close that. Minute 22, we'll do start burning. Okay, we are now breaking into Duna orbit. Okay, turn that off. SAS to hold it. Get rid of that for now. 7.8 degree inclination, that'll work. Take a look here, zoom in. Turn the kethane grid on. If I recall correctly, this is the guy we're out to rescue. There's a bit of kethane over here. Well, it'll take several orbits to map enough here to know where we're going to have to land. But we're looking good. Okay, we're almost finished with this burn. Just about breaking into the orbit we want for kethane mapping. Watching apoapsis here, periapsis, and let's just cut it right there. Delete our maneuver node. Go ahead and turn that off. And we're in position in Duna orbit. And now for the exciting part is to do many Duna orbits to get this whole equatorial region mapped for kethane deposits, and then we can decide on our landing strategies. And so I'll be working on that, and we'll come back next time when it's time to start working out landing maneuvers. And I never reopened the solar panels, which I don't suppose is a problem because the rover here has a couple of RTGs on it to provide power. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave them closed. Alright, thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out of here.